Welcome to the Wittering Podcast, Film Night, Episode 9, with special guest Murray Kerr, where we'll be discussing the transition of comics into films, the best ones that have ever made it. We'll also discuss where one of the greatest comic book writers ever keeps his money.
He was famously sent his cheques for significant amounts of money as the original author, and he kept returning them. And he just went, up, stick your money up your browner.
And also, the motivation behind some of the greatest creativity ever seen or heard.
He was definitely a man who embraced all the facets of life. But then we wouldn't have all that stuff without him being completely out of his tits on every drug going.
And also find out what Murray got up to last night.
I'd had a kicking from the police.
Anyway, on with the show! Ready?
I was born ready.
Well, welcome to the Wittering Podcast, Film Night, Episode 9, almost double figures, with me old chestnut Murray. How you going, Murray?
I've had better days. I was at a dinner night last night and thought it would be a really cracking idea to down a bottle of port to myself, amongst other things. Brandy sours, wine and beer and port. So this morning I felt like I had been like I'd had a kicking from the police or something, but I'm back in the fight now.
That's good. Had you had a kicking, would you know?
I might have. Well, when I went up, I got up this morning. I went into the office. I went into the office to speak to someone, and they said, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And like, "Oh no, what's happened?" And it's like, I'm just really, really rough." And they went, "No, what's happened to you?" Like they thought because my eyes were so bloodshot, they thought I'd been crying. Like has somebody died or something? And I went, "No, I'm just really, really hungover." They're like, "Your eyes are like blood red."
Because it was a works do, were there other people in the environment who were also similarly afflicted?
Everybody had to was struggling to get out of their bed at 10 o'clock. We had to go and do some stuff at 10 a.m. and everybody was in absolute state. We're all just standing there like hanging like a washing.
That is commendable behaviour. Well done, Murray.
And even when I was like halfway through the bottle of port, so there's a thing called mind sweeping, because port's the last drink you get in your as part of the dinner. And then everybody who leaves the port, you just go around the table and get all their glasses of port and decant them back into the decanter. We did that, and we tanked the 3 remaining decanters, and then we found another bottle of port. A guy came out with another bottle of port, and we tanked that as well. And then we went to the bar to commence drinking local lager until that ran.
Well, look, man, it's lovely. You look quite fresh to me. I wouldn't have known, to be honest with you. You're obviously,
you my eyes, you would know it would be quite self-evident. So I'm going to.
Well, to be honest, when I came online and the video, this channel was working, you were lying, and there was a packet of crisps on your chest, and you're sort of feeding yourself. And yeah, absolutely. And also, I'm honoured to have you back here because we've actually recorded this episode. Well, we've talked our way through this episode before, the subject of this episode, which I'll reveal in a minute. But I forgot to press record. So that was the ghost episode that will never be heard or seen. And we're going to talk about it again, the subject matter. And the subject matter is, I think, something really cool. And that is the best comics or graphic novels that have made a transition from the page to the big screen, or the medium screen. And our top 3, and then we'll get into the ones that haven't been made yet, that should have been made yet. And I just because I'm 47 years old, right? And I'm not asking your age, but you're probably a little bit younger than me. And I know. I'm sorry to be hilarious, but I have no embarrassment or shame whatsoever when someone says, "You spent how much on what?" I said, "I just spent 150 quid on comics and some graphic novels." And they go, "What, are you a kid?" And I go, "Well, yeah, I guess to an extent, but obviously some of these graphic novels are quite adult themed." What are your feelings, Murray? And how tell me about your background with comics and how you feel about them now, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, well, I started reading comics like most kids of my generation, like, you know, the Dandy and the Beano, and then Commando books as I got a little bit older. And then the thing that I really got into was Star Blazers, which are a DC Thompson publication. They're basically a sci-fi version of Commando books. I'm sure you and I have spoken about them before.
You have educated me about them, yes.
Yes, there was 281 of them made, and I've got about 200 of them, and I'm going to consider it my life's work to get a complete set. And I think, was it the last time I spoke? Did you and I speak about it before? About how I've already got a copy of the very first one, and I nearly bought another copy at a comics fair, and it didn't, and it is the greatest regret of my life. Above everything, all the stupid things I've done and all the missed opportunities, I should have bought another version of a comic that I had from when I was a wee boy. But this, I don't know, and I don't understand why they're not more popular, because they're absolutely brilliant. There are uh, what's the name of the guy who did Kick Ass? Grant Morrison.
Yes, I think so. Yes,
Grant Morrison, or was it Mark Miller? Mark Miller.
I think it might be Mark Miller. It's Mark Miller. I think you're right. Yes.
Mark Miller started on Star Blazer Comics, and they are absolutely brilliant. Somebody needs to go and do a documentary all about how super awesome they are, because they're the
Well,
last great comic thing that's not been ruined.
well, we could do that. You're a cinematographer, and I'm a
Yeah,
and a writer, a bit of a writer. Let's do that.
does anyone know anyone with a camera? Do you know what we should? We absolutely should. We should go and
Why
do like
not? Yeah,
right, the next podcast that you have me in, if you have me on, I'm
of
going to
course.
dig. You're going to dig out some Star Blazers, and I'm going to find a couple of Star Blazers for you. I want you to read them, and I want people to get the Star Blazers because they are the best kept secret in British graphic novels.
But do you want to increase people's awareness of them, because the chances of you getting your hand on that number one again is going to drastically reduce the more people who are looking for them. I mean, this
Yeah,
podcast itself, with all of its 14 subscribers, I mean, you are minimizing your chances by 0.00004.
yes, I'm prepared to roll the dice on that one. I
Oh,
think
good
it's,
man.
I mean, you know, like 2000 AD is really big, and you know, people like Garth Ennis brought back Dan Dare and all that kind of stuff with these golden and the 2000 catalog. You know, this you know is a library in itself. All the great graphic novels. Um, the great Alan Moore, and his
Yeah.
Future Shocks and all that kind of stuff. That's where he started. But the best kept secret in British comic books is Star Blazers. You need to get into them.
I haven't read many, but I used to love Commandos, absolutely, and I still do. And it's almost sacrilegious, but I had a friend at school called Chris, very funny guy. He used to, I still got one of them. He used to go through and like Tipex out some of the words, and then he'd write stuff in. He could easily be a writer for Viz. So it's almost sacrilegious that you're knackering the Commando comic, but it's hilarious. Actually, it's just reminded me of that. But so are you still, I think, balls deep into comics? Is it fair to
Oh, good
say?
Lord, yes. I every week I go. I like to go for take the dog for a walk, and a lot of that is a kind of therapy. Really, I mean, it's good for the dog, it's good for me. But at least once a week, I will go to the comic shop and peruse and chat away to the guy. I think, to be honest, he's probably quite grateful for the idea of having a customer that actually enjoys the idea of being clean shaven and not stinking like an Alkie's carpet. Not that I want to stereotype comic nerds, but they do. They all look like incel shut-ins. But yeah, the idea of going to the comic shop is I've been doing it since I was a wee boy, and it's still exciting. And you know, in a
Yeah,
world that is increasingly online and digital and you know ephemeral, I think the printed word, the actual physicality of a comic is still important.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do, and I'll admit it. You can come and arrest me, but I do occasionally get my hands on digital copies that I haven't paid for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I get to read loads more. But the ones that I'm immediately like, oh my god, that's for me. I will immediately get on Amazon. I mean, I live in Cornwall. There's no comic shops locally. I will get on Amazon and I will order it. and I will own it. I need to have that physical copy on my shelf. And every now and then I'll just go in and go, oh, into the man cave and go, oh, what am I gonna lose myself in for a while? But I used to love when I lived in Camden. We had, was it one of the Forbidden Cities there? And
Forbidden
was
Planet.
that the name?
Forbidden
Forbidden
Planet.
Planet. What did I say? Yeah.
Forbidden
And I used
City.
to. I was a student, but I spent a lot of money I shouldn't have done on graphics.
Yeah.
Just
One of my very good friends, very close friend, him and I went to college together. And the idea of comic book, it's Wednesday or Thursday they'll come out. And I think that it was probably it was that and talking about like Kurosawa and Kubrick and comics. It was the 3Ks. The KKK. No, I'm going to withdraw that last remark. That's the story of how we got into the KKK. But
no,
yeah,
you got to see in there. You're all right.
yeah, KCK. But that and another fella, a great guy called Alan Chung, who is a comedy legend. And the three of us used to go down there and just spend time. It's like being in a, like when you go to like a really good wine shop and you just spend ages looking at bottles of wine, and a secondhand bookshop,
Yeah.
shops, wine shopping, and comic shopping are the three.
And I'll add to that, they don't exist anymore, but video shops, when I used to manage
Yeah.
video shops and work in some and manage others, I used to be surrounded by all this film, all this escapism, whatever you want to call it. And then you get people coming in, and some of them are total film nuts, and other people are kind of being dragged in, and you get to play around with their minds and choices. And oh God, that was just just a happy place, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Star Blazers.
Okay. So
Encourage the
Starblade,
comment.
right, fine. So you have no shame. Sorry,
No, encourage
I was going to say,
your viewer. Encourage the viewer to make some comments to Alan, the viewer. Hello out there, Alan, the viewer. Please, please go and look into Star Blazers, because they're just great. They are just great.
So what you said about the sort of your very incendiary description of the average comic shop hanger groupie or whatever purchaser. But there's also no reason why you can't be a strapping older man, highly functional,
Oh yeah,
holding down jobs, families, like an alpha or beta or whatever. I don't care. Basically, you could be any type of person and still have the comic affliction, and hopefully proudly, because they seriously kick ass. And also, me leading into the subject of this podcast, so many people go, "Oh, I love that film," and you get to go, "It's from a comic." There's so many films out there that people, "Oh, that's a great film, yeah." Yeah, it's from a comic. Another one from a comic. Yeah. And so, and the thing I like to say about comics is that they're kind of that in between medium between the written word, so something absolutely captivating, compelling, for example, Stephen King, and then cinema, in terms of something like, I don't know, like Matrix, the first Matrix, which is just like mind blowing. I thought all round. And then in the middle, you've got like the comic, which is, you've got the written word and the visuals, and the visuals can vary from pencil drawings to hugely elaborate painted fabrics like Kingdom Come, for example, and that sort of stuff. But the one I always come back to, the one that really turned me on to comics, was when I was at school, and a mate called Khalid, in a year above, we were talking. He goes, "Oh, you need to read this," and he gave me Batman: The Killing Joke. And that absolutely fried my brain. And it was a lot to do with the visuals, the art. In that, here's the Joker, and he looks kind of photorealistic, obviously not, but it's just accentuated. And it's kind of, my brain would, if I was reading a written word, my brain, he had a face like a drawn out canoe. Okay, I could probably put it together. But when it's actually given to you as well, then I find it really tickles my imagination, and it's not hard work, and it's hugely enjoyable. So that's kind of my take on comics. Because you had something, we talked before about the origin of comics, almost like as a form of narrative. Because obviously, I guess you've got pictures on walls, haven't you, in caves?
Pictograms. Yep, they are. They're universal themes that are that have been told since the time immemorial. You look at the ancient world, painted vases and things like that. They all told a story. And also, when you think about it, the idea of pictograms and the idea of graphic renditions of a story, that's evolved all over the world. Just about every uh, great society. Look at the Aztecs. They had a series of pictograms, and like a single cell, a single animated cell could tell an entire story. That's how they communicated their creation myths and the stories of the gods
Yeah,
and how they got to where they are. And all the pretty much everybody around the world has evolved. That Aboriginal people have that, and the dream time. And then over in Asia, where like manga, manga's an anime is that's comics for adults. You do see people, you see respectable businessmen sitting on the train reading comics. Like
yeah, yeah. That's
it's
so cool.
which is
That's
really
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like it's a massive art form there, and they've had that in Japan for like the better part of 1,000 years as well. It's not just a modern thing.
really.
Yes, when the in the 16th odd century, 16th, 17th century, like the Portuguese and people like that went to Japan, they were astounded that just about everybody in the country was literate. Famously,
Okay.
yeah, famously, just about everybody in Japan, even peasants, could read and write. Whereas very at that point in history in Europe, very few people could read and write. Academics, scholars, and the clergy.
Yeah.
Even kings
Okay.
could barely read and write. That's why they came up with the signet rings, so they didn't have to, because they couldn't write their own name. Things like that. Okay, like the
Everybody what
seal.
to sign off documents and in
Yes,
the
yeah,
wax.
like
Yeah.
the seal on the ring, because even kings couldn't. It wasn't atypical for them. Whereas in Japan, and I think China and Korea as well, they everybody could read and write, and everybody read, and that's where anime comes from. There's a
Yeah.
famous piece from the 11th century called the Tale of Genji. That is it's
Yeah.
1,000 years old. Yeah, and if you've been to Japan, haven't you?
Yeah. Been once. Yeah.
Did you go to the manga museum in
No, but
Kyoto?
we're going in April next year. So is it Kyoto? Where did you?
I'm sure it's
Because we've been
Kyoto.
to
I will
Kyoto,
double
but we
check.
didn't go there. But
Yeah, you definitely want to go check that out, because it's brilliant. When I was there the last time I was there, which was a few years ago now, they had, I think it was like a 15th or 16th century graphic novel version of the Tale of Genji. That I don't know if it was part of their
really,
collection. Yeah, I know it was part of the collection. It was something that they'd had loaned to them, but it was 500-year-old comic that everybody had read.
that's
Like,
mental.
yeah,
That is
everybody
mental.
everybody knows it. Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? We think comics are
Yeah.
like a thing that came along with like the printed press and all that kind of stuff, but they were making them with wood, what do you call it, woodcuts. That's how
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
That's
evolved.
brilliant.
Obviously, that
So I suppose
evolved.
we had.
I was
Go
just going to say that that woodcut technique is where all the famous Japanese ukiyo-e stuff, Hokusai and Kuniyoshi and all these people. That's where they got all that from as well. You know,
Who are those
like
people? Sorry, I'm ignorant.
Hokusai was the guy who did the Great Wave off Kanagawa.
Oh, yeah. 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 Oh,
He
wow.
learned to do that, and that was everybody was at that. He elevated it to an art form. He's famous, 70 views of Fujiyama that he
Yeah. Yeah.
worked
Yeah.
on. And then there's another guy called Kuniyoshi, who's a lot more kind of jokey about stuff. But it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It is all graphic novels. It's great.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Cool.
So did we have like the Bayeux tapestry? I mean, that was what 1,000 years old. But isn't it? Is it because I haven't seen the Japanese graphics, the ancient ones, well, the very old ones you're talking about. But are they
Uh-huh.
more sort of set up in a sort of traditional comic, like
Yeah, that's exactly what
cell
they
by
are.
cell? That's what they are. Because
Yeah,
the Bayeux tapestry is obviously like a middle spread of a magazine that you can pull out, and it tells the whole story.
it
I
unfolds.
don't know if it's over time or not.
What is what over time?
The Bayeux tapestry, as in you start on the left hand side, and this is what when
Yeah,
Harold
yeah.
got here, when he landed.
It's chronological to yeah, it is. It's chronological. But if you look at like the versions of is it Genji Monogatari? It looks like a comic. It is presented as a graphic novel.
Okay, that's
Obviously, it reads
mad.
from
That's mind
right
blowing.
to left. Yeah, it reads from right to left, and there are panels on each page. And the same
Fine.
like it.
So look, so 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 it's clear that the comic medium has been used as part of key uh, transfer of cultural narratives amongst peoples for like hundreds and hundreds of years. And we all should know how important like narrative and storytelling is amongst cultures to,
Mhm,
to for identity and knowledge transfer and just having a good time. And then so nowadays, is it fair? I don't know, man. Is it fair to say less people read and more people plug in? I mean, you might read on your screen bits and bobs. Attention span's gone down to like 48 seconds. I read in a white paper the other day. So you've literally got 184 words on a pod on a post like on LinkedIn or Facebook
uh-huh,
or Twitter. You've got 184 words, which is the average number of words that the average reader will consume in 48 seconds. And then you've kind of lost them. So the fact that you've got these amazing stories that are being told in comics, I believe, and I think you probably agree, that are
mhm.
being transferred into celluloid or digital film or TV series, I think it just makes a huge amount of sense. But I just don't ever want the comic or the graphic to be forgotten, and maybe it's not likely to ever stop being created. Is there a risk that people are going to stop doing comics?
Well, there will probably be fewer publications because we're going into a more paperless age. But they'll still be there, and there will still be folk. The people are getting into jazz from the 30s, like now. You know,
Okay.
50, 60. In the 50s and 60s when rock and roll came on, people said that jazz is finished, and then everybody had a record collection, and then records died off, and the vinyl's been back for a couple of years, and now tapes coming back as well. I hear people are into tapes
Is
again.
it? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's madness, isn't it? I think we talked maybe in the dying the ghost episode. The fact that I've got a copy of Die Hard on VHS, even though I haven't had a
Uh-huh.
VHS player for probably about 15 years. It's
Uh-huh.
it's just it's more just an objet d'art than
Yeah.
anything else. But
I've still got
it's
a
fascinating how.
collection. I've
Say
still got a
again.
selection of some of my VHS tapes as well. I've got Blade Runner, Zulu, Bridge Too Far. I've got I think Zulu. I have on VHS,
Yeah.
DVD, Blu-ray, and Apple Movies, and I've got a copy of the soundtrack on vinyl as well. And there'll be a new format will come out, and I will get Zulu on that format as well. Hopefully, like Brain Cam or something
Yeah.
beamed directly into your frontal lobe,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I will get that, and I
Yeah.
will still have my USB plug into the back of just behind the
Yeah.
ear, and I'll have Zulu on that. Yeah,
Okay, wicked.
physical things.
Right, look,
Physical.
let's get on with what we were going to talk about. That's a really great chat, and yeah, thank you, man. So our top three comics into films or TV series or both. Okay,
Uh,
who do you want to go first? As you're the guest.
yeah, that's cool. Thank you. It's got to be. It's I never understood why it wasn't a big film, but the Carl Urban version of Dread is a brilliant film. It's an
Okay,
absolutely brilliant film. And like you and I grew up reading 2000 AD. We went from the Dandy and Commando books to 2000 AD, and there was a lot of really reactionary stuff. I mean, the original editors they were really quite bolshy individuals. They were very much
okay.
in the late 70s, or in the 70s rather, when 2000 AD came out. They were talking about a lot of really reactionary ideas. Don't trust the government. The people in charge don't always have your best interests, and almost certainly do not have your best interests at heart. and you need to be conscious of that. And they were talking about that. I was reading things like that. I wasn't quite, reading Das Kapital and as a teenager. But the ideas of things like that came through, and they stuck with me. And
Yeah,
Joe Dredd is the perfect manifestation of that idea, and he is also he's a great character, but it's the world that he inhabits that I always found fantastic. The blocks and the League of Fatties and all of these people, and the
yeah,
fact that the mayor of Mega City One is an orangutan. Do you remember that one?
yeah. I do actually. Yes.
Yeah, they had. Yeah, somebody says something about I'm going to speak to the mayor about that, and Joe Dredd says, "Well, the mayor's an orangutan, so good luck with that. We run the show around here." But the
Monkey
world,
at the
the
top.
world of Mega City One, I think, is a brilliantly realised concept, and I think they really nailed that in the Joe Dredd and the Dredd film with Carl Urban. I think the previous one with Sly Stallone was just it was all right when it came out, but it was just fruitless. It was just there was no reason for it. It didn't add anything, and he took his helmet off. So what's the point of that?
Yeah, yeah,
That's not
yeah.
that isn't Judge Dredd. That is not him.
It's you've lost all the core believers. I'll go all the core Joe Dredd believers at that point, and perhaps it. And he goes, well, of course I'm taking my helmet off. I'm Cy Stallone, of course it is. And then, but Carl Urban, when he filmed it, he was. I should say, actually, coincidentally, that Dredd, Carl Urban Dredd, and who directed it? It was shit. The guy did
Alex
Beach.
Garland. Alex
Alex
Garland.
Garland, yeah. He ended up
Yeah,
directing it, and he swore never to do another one, much to a lot of fans' disappointment. But Carl Urban must have gone, I'll play Joe Dredd. Maybe I need to look him up. Who knows? Maybe you knew him already. But I'm happy to keep my head out of the entire
yeah,
film. You can see my chin and my lips. And I hadn't thought about that before. Just what you said about Cy taking his helmet off made me think about that. That's well done,
yeah,
mate. And now look at him in The Boys.
yeah, yeah. And I thought about that's another graphic novel from a UK graphic novel as well. Um,
Yeah,
I remember when the Judge Dredd film came out and Sly Stallone thought he obviously wants to make himself be the face of Judge Dredd and be
yeah,
memorable for it, and all he did was just upset everyone by going, "You're
yeah,
not Judge Dredd," because nobody knows what he looks like. So
yeah.
don't try and superimpose yourself on it.
Wasn't there a one oh God, maybe I'm getting it's a long time ago. Wasn't there one release of 2000 AD that you saw more of Joe Dredd? Or did you see his brother before he went to Titan or something? I can't remember.
Rico.
Because he was a clone. Joe Dredd was a clone, wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
And then he had a brother who he sent to Titan, the prison planet. And anyway, but but you fundamentally don't know what Joe Dredd, and that's that imagination thing again. That's cracking.
Yeah.
So again, also that film had Judge Anderson in it.
Yes.
She was very good. A young Judge Anderson, just a fresh recruit, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
She's
going into
great in
that,
that as well.
yeah,
Into the blocks. I mean, I think they really got the essence of what living in the mega blocks, mega city blocks was, and living in a world where
yeah,
virtually no one has any purpose. And again,
yeah,
it's quite apocryphal, really, what they were talking about with that. Look, technology provides everything, but gives you and nothing at the same time. It's something
yeah,
that ties into the whole notion of the physicality, the physical world. Having comics, having physical media, it still counts.
yeah,
It's still a thing. And I don't know what it's going to be like for our grandchildren, but there will be people out there
yeah.
who will fall in love with books and records and
They'll
things like
they'll
that.
find our they'll find our stashes of comics and films boxed up in an attic
I,
somewhere and go,
yeah,
"What's this old crap?"
yeah, yeah.
And then
I
they get lost into it. But
I
but
hope so.
that
I
film,
do.
I mean that film was just I found it. I've watched it. I think probably at least 15 times, and I wish I'd seen it in the cinema because the visuals on it, the sound, like when the weapons, the
Yeah,
violence, it's hugely appealing and effective. and those visuals, man. I mean, I've done some psychoactive substances, and those visuals are really kind of like, yeah, you've really captured it. People have tried so many films over the decades to capture the sort of psychoactive experience, or and there've been some really good ones, in my opinion. But this is definitely one of them. And when you combine that with the violence and the bullet time, isn't it? When you
Oh
take
yeah.
that drug, you go. Anyway, but I think it's really good, and I'm disappointed there isn't a sequel. But also, I hate sequels really, and especially remakes. So I'm quite happy it stands alone on its own as a great example of what Judge Dredd should be.
Could and should be. Yeah, there was talk
Yeah,
a few years ago about a Netflix season. I don't know whatever happened to that with Carl
it's always
Urban.
a
I thought
risk. Yeah,
that's absolute. That's what Netflix is for.
yeah,
But I don't know what happened to it. They pulled the pin on it,
yeah,
which is a shame. But that would have been great, considering the crap that's on Netflix these days. Like they
yeah.
just bang out any old rubbish. Why aren't we getting a Joe Dredd season? Because the kids
and
want it.
and and almost limitless source material. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah,
as you've said in the Ghost episode, you've got all sorts. You've got the what are they called? The
the
Judge
dark
Death,
judges. The
the
dark
Dark
judges.
Judges. They're cool. You got Chopper. You mentioned.
Yep.
You've got,
The
I
Angel
think it's
Gang.
called Pilgrim or
Also,
something. When Joe Dredd goes into the cursed earth, it's basically
yeah,
kind of a bit of a western. There's,
yeah,
there's just
yeah, yeah,
so much stuff, and then some crossovers with Batman. That was epic.
yeah. The
Some of those were
Batman,
great.
Judge Dredd ones are really good. There's two, isn't there?
I think there is. And who's the artist? Is it Glenn Fabry? What's his name? He does this amazing. I've got him down there. I won't dig him out but he does these amazing. I think he paints them. I actually met him at Tribal Gathering in like 1995. He was there signing some stuff, like this big like
Uh,
rave thing, and he was there, and I was like, "Holy God!" And he had some little pictures to some stuff, and I got him to sign one, and I've still got it somewhere. But the art on that is just mental. With
that's very
Batman
cool.
and Judge Dredd, yeah, wicked. Okay, so we agree on number three, and so
Uh,
do you
is
want
that
to you
number
go
two?
with your number two?
Number
That was
two.
no word of a lie. I'll do this really quickly so you can't see the rest of them, but there's evidence there now that was number three for me.
That's cool. That's cool.
Oh, hang
Right,
on,
so
look, got
uh-huh.
to show that. Look, there you go. We'll put that up there.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is.
Nice. There's a lot of great
Right.
gags. Judge Dredd as well. You forget that there are lots of really good jokes in it, really clever in jokes. The block house names and things like that. It's there's real wisdom behind the story of Judge Dredd. He's not just. I mean, we would get that, and then America comes up with RoboCop. RoboCop's good fun, but it's just
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
same level. It's just not the same level,
yeah, yeah.
you
Nah,
know. Um,
not at all.
so, shall I go? Am I going for number two?
Yeah, well, do you want me to go first?
You go for number two.
I'll go number three. Look, I've actually got it out. It's a bit of an old copy. It's fallen apart a little bit. Are you ready? Here we go. I love this.
Go on.
Okay, so see if you can guess what it is, because basically when I explaining to my daughter, and she's a very good artist, but when she was younger, I was always explaining about light, how it's so important
Uh,
to capture or represent light to give depth and blah 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 blah. And then occasionally I'd show her some of this stuff, just to give her an example, because I think that this artist, the aesthetics on his work is just amazing, and it's just, as you'll see, it's just, there you go.
yeah, yeah.
Sin
Well,
City, man. Frank Miller. So,
it's
so, so,
the technique that he uses is what's called chiaroscuro, which is the blend of
okay.
light and dark. And that was, I know it wasn't invented by Caravaggio, but he made it his own. He had, and then that that was heavily influenced the work of the Dutch masters, like people like Rembrandt, like the Night Watch. And
Yeah.
what
Okay.
you don't realize until you look into it, somebody explains to you, is like, this isn't just darkness. This is him creating darkness. This is not just just drawing the light bits. The the use of the dark colours and the blacks is applied. The blacks are applied as much as the lighter colours, and being able,
Okay, okay,
as opposed to drawing on a piece of black paper with a white mark with a white pen. It's drawing the
yeah,
black and the white, and that the technical term for that is chiaroscuro. And as I say, that's
okay.
you see that in great
That's,
portraiture, great photography. But that was, that comes again. That comes from the period of the Renaissance, and that is brought forward
okay,
to the same principle in a completely new fashion and a completely new artifice. But that notion is, again, that's as old as the hills, and it's just so well realised. You forget that the black is actually applied. You think it's just people drawing in the whites, but it's
yeah, yeah.
it's quite. They're all quite pulpy. The tales themselves, they're pulp fiction, really.
You
That
mean
have
the Sin City tales?
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like
The
a dame to kill for, and that yellow bastard, and
the yellow bastard one, yeah.
yeah,
They're all just they're like Raymond Chandler novels, really, aren't they? That have
yeah,
been that
yeah,
have been
absolutely,
realized beautifully.
yeah.
Again,
That,
it's just pulpy rubbish, but
but
it's
yeah, but it's like you said. It's like you said about Kubrick's The Killing. You said the story itself was off the shelf, sort of fairly generic, but because of what Kubrick did to it, like the visuals and other aspects of it. I still haven't seen it, even I did buy it the other day. The That's what makes it a great film, and I think I was so I when I came across Sin City, the first one, with Marv in it, the first time,
uh-huh.
it just tickled every single part of my body. Absolutely loved it. And then I heard they wanted to bring out the film, and then I got the shits because I said, "There's no, I don't really see how you're gonna honor the original source material adequately, not to piss me off." And then when I heard Robert Rodriguez was going to do it, I was like, "Well, yeah, if anyone's got a hope, maybe he's got a hope." But and then when it came out, and Mickey Rourke, he was fucking great. Um, and then is it Clive
Bruce
Owen in it?
Willis,
Is he in it? Bruce
Clive Owen,
Willis.
isn't it? Bruce Willis, Benicio del Toro. I mean, they were
Yeah,
all at the top of their game. Benicio del Toro is a great actor, as is
yeah,
Clive
he
Owen.
is.
I've always got
Yeah,
time
yeah.
for both of them.
What
But
happened to Clive Owen?
he was he as in the film,
Well, no, no,
or
no. As in, I don't. I'm going sidetrack, but it is The Wittering. But as in, I don't see him in much anymore. And
oh, is he, maybe he's married a stripper or something like that, and he's just blowing cocaine out of his arse, or he's away.
I, I
He's
like that.
away.
I hope that's
He's,
what's
he's either
happened.
doing that. He's either doing that, cocaine and strippers, or he is working on an autobiography of film of some obscure character. Maybe he's going to do
Okay,
like
fair enough. Do you remember? Did you watch Shoot 'Em Up with Clive Owen?
shoot him up. Was that the yeah, yeah, with Monica Bellucci?
Yes, mate.
Yes, that's a great
That
film.
is that is yeah, that is
That's a great
lovely.
film.
That is
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
'Cause he was in
But
everything for ages.
sorry.
He was in everything for ages. He was just everywhere, and
Yeah,
then he just wasn't. Like
that's
says.
yeah, that's what I don't get it. And he was a great export, I thought.
Mm.
Anyway,
Mhm.
so the Sin City, I was not a disappointment when I saw it. There were scenes that were straight out of the book. Mickey
Mm.
Rourke's makeup was pretty good, and his voice was pretty good. It wasn't too far away from my little imagination of what Marv was, and so I thought it was great and hugely honoured. I spent a huge amount of money, well, at the time, relative to my income, on Sin City paraphernalia, like playing cards. I've got the electric Marv in the death chair, the electrocution
Yes,
chair, which you can throw a switch. It goes,
I know the one you mean.
yeah,
I
yeah. Is
do
that
know
the
the one
best
you
you
mean.
could do?
Yeah, my friend Scott, the guy that we used to go comic shopping with, my really good friend, we got one of them for his birthday one year. We all chipped in and got him that. He was really made up by. I think they're getting like really collectible now as well because they've been on the like a good 20 years since they came out. So they're
Yeah, it
probably
must be quite old.
yeah.
Mine's a bit dog-eared, but it's not. I'm never selling it. It's like the Lego. I'll never sell it.
No,
You know.
no, no. You can't get rid of
Fine.
it.
So
Like,
and yeah, and then I mean, yeah, okay, and then this kind of connects to one of my choices for comics I wish they would um, make into a film, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But okay, so that's my number two, Sin City, cracking.
well,
Well, hang on. So and then they had follow ups, didn't they? Sequels, and they were okay. They were good.
they were all
You
right.
know,
They stand
they're
alone.
okay.
What I like about them is the stories themselves stand alone. You know,
Yeah,
if you only had like half an hour to watch one of them, you could enjoy it,
yeah.
and it's as a singularity. I think it's good for that. And the sequels were all right. I think there's probably going to be some Netflixy thing coming along at some point in the near future when they'll just keep adding zeros. You know, Robert Rodriguez will go, no, it's done. The work is complete, and they'll just keep adding zeros. Well, yeah, go on then. All right.
Yeah.
130
Yes, mate.
million dollars
I can see
for
it.
payday, and you go, oh, all right, okay, well then. Another large check, Mr. Rodriguez. Okay, put it
Yeah.
on the pile for me. Thank you. But yeah, I mean I know it's also a contentious one as well, and it's not on my list. But the 300 I thought was great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
man.
second
I mean,
one not so
yeah.
much. I think the kind of ship had sailed. Ironically, it was about a naval battle, but the first one I thought was banging. Um,
Yeah.
and Gerard Butler, as he likes to be called these days, yeah,
Yeah.
he normally annoys me, but I thought he was really good in that. He was really good. Michael Fassbender's in it
Yeah.
as well in the background.
Yeah.
He's like,
He's one of his troops, isn't he?
yeah, he's the guy. Yeah, I can't remember what his line is, but yeah, he's got a line right at the end, a couple of lines, and I think I'm just going to start his career. He was in Band of
Yeah.
Brothers as well. Did you know that? Michael Fassbender.
Yes, he came near the end, didn't he?
Yeah, he turns up
He,
right at the end.
he was. Yeah, because I watched that. I watched Band of Brothers again about 3 months ago or 4 months ago because it had been
Uh-huh.
too long, and it was 80th anniversary of D-Day, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's a fucking steaming pile of awesome that is, and a reminder of how lucky we've got it at the
Yeah,
minute.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Jesus.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, right.
So
So that's my number two.
my number two then is very much in the same theme and the same ideas. Is I think is what is the greatest graphic novel ever is The Watchmen. A lot of people really didn't like the film because they thought it didn't do it any justice, and the whole story about Alan Moore and it all. But I still think it's a great film, and it's been there was a TV version of it which was all right. It was a kind of I don't want to say Watchmen: The Next Generation, but it wasn't of the film. It wasn't the original
Okay,
graphic novel, but they have also just released an animated version of it as well. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't. You told me about it. I've got my hands on it. I haven't
It's
had the chance to settle
yeah,
down. And
it's
is
it's
it
the
just
first.
a sorry?
No, go on.
Is it a retelling of the actual story of the original story?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, it is a kind of shot for shot of um, the original graphic novel. So it's quite different from the film, but
Okay,
it's definitely worth a look. I
I
think it's
shall
the
get
same
on it,
people.
man.
Yeah, I think it's the same people do like Batman the animated series. It's got that look about it.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So
That's very
if
cool.
you like that visual, it's good.
I
Check
do
it out.
like
But
most.
The watch, the Watchmen, I think is really, I think it should be considered alongside the great works of literature. I think the idea of it, and I think Alan Moore as a writer is, he's one of the greatest writers in the English language ever. I think
Yeah,
he's really, really up there, and he's such a reactionary guy as well. He's not just sitting there, gobbing off about stuff. He makes a lot of really profound points about a lot of things. And when that original was it 84, 85 that came out, when he was talking about
yeah,
again this, he started off at 2000 AD and that whole notion of don't trust the government.
yeah.
Back when it was about, it's not that you don't trust the governments, it's that you need to realize that they do not have your best interests at heart. You need to,
Yeah, yeah,
you need to understand what that is, what that means to you.
yeah,
It's something I've always tried to live my life by. Just, don't be a sheep.
yeah, yeah.
That
Well,
really,
a friend of
that
mine
really,
put it really. Sorry, but I'll just say a friend of
go
mine
on.
put that really neatly a couple of years ago. I mean, I don't need. I have awareness of that fact, obviously, but he said the system self protects. The system protects the system. So
Uh-huh.
even though the system's
Oh,
made up of
absolutely.
individuals, but yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, this is when people talk about, this organization, this is rigged. When they talk about it, that is what they're talking about. Um, and as an aside, I think it's an important thing to consider as well. Like, um, people succeed in this world in spite of its institutions, not because of. And I think the best example of that is people like Alan Moore and the Sex Pistols. That was a
okay,
pure reaction to the world that we lived in at the time, where we were, there was inequity in society in the 70s, when the good old 70s, when you could leave your door open and you could make all kinds of hideous remarks about people of colour, and all that kind of stuff, and you could smoke in pubs
yeah,
and you could still beat your
yeah,
wife up, but you could leave your
yeah,
front door open, and things cost threepence
okay,
halfpenny, all of that crap, and all that false memory syndrome thing, But like, as a cult, for me, the Sex Pistols are a cultural phenomenon. They're not really about the music. Their music is great,
okay,
but
yeah,
they're from that world of don't don't let the don't trust them. Don't trust
yeah,
anybody in
yeah,
authority. And
yeah, yeah,
those
yeah,
themes have definitely prevailed through 2000 AD and a lot of the work that Alan Moore's done as well. And it's absolutely at the heart of the Watchmen. I mean, that's the line is, what is it? Uh, was it quid ipsos, quid custodia is
yeah,
quid
It-
custodes ipsos custodiat?
yeah,
Who is the Watchman?
yeah. Who guards
That's,
the guards, man?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's like, I think, that's obviously, that's Latin. That goes all the way back to the time of the Roman Empire. That was a
yeah,
theme
yeah,
then. The idea of, the one thing, despite controlling vast, I mean, all of Europe, basically, all of the known world, they still didn't like the idea of somebody being absolutely in charge, even though they were absolutely in charge. That,
yeah.
to the point where, they had a profound distrust of anybody that actually, wanted to govern,
Yeah,
and all of this stuff.
absolutely. It's so true. We should have a chat about a non-film night chat about this, because I've just briefly I was involved in a bit of data analytics over the option that the central government had given a local government to get more funding, but instead of having a sort of a board on the council, they'd have a single mayor. So like the mayoral model that they have in Manchester and other places, and just looking at all these qualitative, so dialogue responses to the questionnaire, would you like to have a mayor? It was so powerful, and it was basically everyone saying just what you just said, Murray, is that we can't trust one individual. We basically can't trust humans are dicks. Ongoing theme, I feel, in this podcast, and rightly so. And if you put one in control, even if they don't mean it, they didn't mean to. They go in with the best will, but by the end of it, you'll
Mhm.
be untrustworthy, duplicitous, all of the above. So I think it's part of the human condition almost. So it probably vibrates deep inside us, and in terms, and so it's easy to trigger with narrative, I think, and
Mhm.
especially at the
Yeah.
moment when you like the resurgence of like 1984, like Orwell, Brave New World, Huxley, all these all these stories. People are possibly, I think they're being made into more films or maybe another TV series. I'm not paying a lot of attention. I'm not going to watch them, but I think a lot of people will be watching them for the first time. And I hate to be rude about part of the population without having a frigging clue what the source material is, and how
Yeah.
and who wrote it, and then hopefully it will really strongly resonate. And that you got to watch out that the
Uh-huh.
government or whoever may be in control isn't telling you one thing and doing something else. But then you've got the situation, and I won't go off on one, but you get a situation where almost it's like the red and blue pill. It's like
Mhm.
Cypher and Matrix. I've always felt that when he's talking to Neo, he goes, I wish I'd taken the other pill. And then he's like, I know this wine isn't real, and I know this steak isn't real. When he's talking to Mr. Smith and planning the betrayal, but it tastes great. I'm like, man, maybe it's better. Let's just as long as we're not, I'm not uncomfortable, and I don't feel that I'm missing out or that I'm being taken advantage of. Man, put me in a simulation, man. Jack me up, whatever. As long as I'm I feel worthwhile and enjoying myself. What's the difference? And so it's almost quite. I'm in two minds over the whole thing because I don't want to live on gruel with an itchy shirt in a craft that is slinking around the underbelly of the complex, like in
Of
Matrix.
rusting hulk. So yeah, it comes back to that whole: do you want the ugly truth or the beautiful lie? I always want the ugly truth, even if it is a disadvantage, because But then truth is subjective, isn't it?
As
And
well, yeah.
subjectivity is objective. But I would always go with the ugly truth.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Right. Watchmen. What's the name?
The
Because
what?
I was doing a podcast with Chris the other night, and he called it "What's his face" from Watchmen, Shawshank, and it's Rorsch. What is it? What's
Rorschach.
Rorschach? Okay, fine.
Yes, to do
Yeah.
with Rorschach block tests.
Yeah. It was just we couldn't. We'd had a few beers, obviously, so, but probably didn't make
Shawshank.
any. Shawshank, yeah.
Is that where they got the idea from the film? Yes, he was meant to be in it. Really? No.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
you know the word
crossover.
gullible is in the Oxford English Dictionary? Did you know that?
What's what?
The word gullible isn't in the Oxford English Dictionary.
No, I'm not falling for that.
No, I'm telling
No
you.
bollocks, Murray. It's definitely in there.
I'm telling you, the word gullible is not in the Oxford English Dictionary.
I I find that hard to
Oh,
believe.
you're wavering, you're wavering.
No, it's got to be in there. That's madness. I think I probably even looked it up once because I was quite gullible. Um,
Do you know? Do you know which word is spelt incorrectly in the dictionary?
no. Oh, incorrectly.
Correct.
Only just by
Oh, I
the
nearly
skin of
had
my
you there.
giblets.
Nearly two in a row there. Two in a row.
Right. Okay. Right. So, very good. Thank you. Watchmen. That's your number two. Have I got
Yep.
anything to add to it? I think it's. I was quite. I think I had read it, but it's quite a full-on graphic novel for me at that time, and I had read it, and then the film. I'm just trying to remember what the initial feelings were because I don't think I knew any of the actors, and that was quite refreshing. As in, like
Uh huh.
everyone was quite new, and
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think I remembered the plot very well, and so it was actually quite cool to see it almost as a virgin, as a Watchman
Mm.
virgin, and now because he touched on it earlier that Alan Moore is quite touchy about his material and being associated with
Yes.
output. How did he feel about
Yeah.
this particular production?
Well, from what I understand, he was famously sent his checks for significant amounts of money as the original author, and he kept returning them. And he just went up, stick your money up your browner. Quite frankly, I don't want anything to do with it. And I'm going to guess that it wasn't a check for 35 quid. I think it was for a significant amount of money. And the guy who was the writer, the illustrator, Dave McGibbon. Dave
Okay, that
Gibbons.
rings bells. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, the Dave McGibbon, something like that. He eventually talked him into just taking the money and giving it to charity because
Okay,
it was just the checks were just piling up, and he went, I don't want it.
yeah.
I'm not prepared to compromise my opinion on it, be a hypocrite. And he said, just take the money and just give it away, give it to charity. And that's what he did. And I think he did the same thing happened again with the TV show. He was sent, look,
Really?
there's a check for 10 million quid there, Mr. Moore. And he went,
Nah, get
"But
fucked.
send it
So,
back."
so do you know Murray if he's liked any transition of his material from.
No, he hates it all. He hates it all. It doesn't deserve. It doesn't. It shouldn't be done because
It
it
doesn't do.
exists as a
Is it?
comic.
So he's saying it's not possible to do his, and I'm not saying it's because he's egotistical or anything. It's just the medium. It's not possible to do the medium, the comic medium, justice of the content of a higher quality, high caliber. Is he saying it's not possible to do that justice by putting it into celluloid? You're going to lose
No,
too much.
I don't think it is that because there was a story in the 80s, early 90s about Terry Gilliam doing a version of The Watchmen. And I don't know
Really?
what Alan Moore's reaction to it was at the time, but everybody kind of thought, wow, that'd be great because Terry Gilliam is like, everything happens in camera with the guy. He's not CGI kind of a bloke, and he's got a brilliant uh, visual narrative style. But he budgeted it at $1 million a page, and the studio went, we're
Hang
going
on
to
a
have to get
minute.
back to you on that one. And it just kind of never took off. And I thought that would have been a great version of it to be done because Terry Gilliam's a great filmmaker. Um,
He is.
but I don't think it's that Alan Moore thinks that it can't do it justice. I just think he believes that it should exist as a book.
Okay.
Just read it, just sit and read
Yeah.
it and enjoy it as a book. And if you can't enjoy it, then go and go and watch Love Island.
But yeah, but I'd push back and surely the quality of the material, the message that you're putting out in the book it's not going to be consumed by a huge proportion of people because they don't read. They don't read
Uh
comics or
huh.
they're not interested or they just don't get to find out about it. But you're going to get your
Uh
message
huh.
across to a huge larger swathe of demographic if you put it into moving images. But
Mm.
I wonder if he's talked about that anyway. I might try and dig out any conversations he's had.
Yeah, there are a number of interviews with him online, and he is just an endlessly interesting individual. And he's just clearly as mad as a box of frogs, but in a
Yeah.
really brilliant way. That he's the classic British eccentric, and just doesn't know how to compromise. And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
should celebrate
Well,
like that.
good luck to him, I say.
Yeah,
Good on him,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, he could
Okay.
easily have taken all that cash and just went, I don't care, I'm taking the money. But he went, nope.
Yeah,
Stood his ground, integrity.
yeah. I mean, yeah. No, I mean, this is up to him. Good choice and everything. Um,
Mm.
right. Okay. So, that was your number two.
Number two,
Shall I do my number one?
whatever you want.
So, right, ready? So, right, here we go. Ready? Here we go.
Ooh,
Ooh, indeed, man.
yeah,
So look,
yeah,
what
yeah,
it says. You see that? It goes John Wagner, the writer, Judge Dredd. So there's a connection, and it's not because I'm British, just because I'm British. I didn't know. I to be honest with you, when I watched History of Violence, I watched the film. I watched it because of Viggo Mortensen, because I think he's
uh-huh,
just a terrific actor, and a really interesting dude in his own right. But terrific actor, and then the film's just bonkers. Directed by Cronenberg. It's got Ed Harris in it. It's got John Hurt in it. I think
yeah,
John Hurt got like an Oscar nod for like I don't know 6 minutes of footage or something. Tia Leone is
yeah.
it the missus? It's
Maria Bello.
Maria Bello. Sorry, yeah, and it's just brilliant. And then someone said, "Oh, it's from a graphic novel." I was like, "What? Seriously?"
Yeah, yeah.
Purchased it and read it, and it's really good. But I'm going to go out on the limb here, Murray. I feel it's a very well-grown limb that could support my weight easily. But I believe the film is better than the book, and it's because the film explore. It does more with the situation with the characters. For example, the son. I think he does more with the son and the journey he goes through. And I read this again recently, probably about 5 days ago, and I was like, you know what, it's missing bits. I was expecting things to happen as they did in the film to an extent, and it was lighter and less impactful for me. So I'm hugely grateful that this exists as a graphic novel, But I'm so glad that Cronenberg turned it into a film and Viggo Mortensen starred in it. And I think I was reading a bit about Viggo Mortensen saying it's possibly the best film he's ever been in. Now, who knows if he was saying, if I don't know if he was saying that as part of the, the circuit pre-release or during the premiere, across the world. But I think I'd like to think it's because it is just seriously badass film, and it's
Yeah. Yeah,
kick ass.
it's a great film. And again, I didn't know it was a graphic novel originally. And it is that case in point of, did you know that it was from a comic? Is it?
He,
Which
yeah,
is great.
and you're like,
I
yes.
also, yeah, I actually I just had a thought there as well. Just recently read the graphic novel version of American Psycho. Have you read that?
Ooh, no. That
Yep, it's a four-parter. It's quite a small. Came out of nowhere. I was in the comic shop, and the guy knows me well. He goes, "Yeah, the Garth Ennis has just done." I was, "Yeah, that's all I need to know. Just give me a copy of that.
Well, Garth
Put it on the
Ennis did
list."
it.
No, he didn't. But it was just that the guy
Oh,
knows me so well.
I take your point. I
He
take your
said,
point.
Have you seen this?" And I went, "I didn't even know that was out." Which is again is the great, which is one of the great bits about going comic shopping. Things just come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And you go, "Oh, that sounds good. Let's have a go with
yeah.
that." But that has gone from a book to a film, and now it's gone in the opposite direction. It's now a graphic novel, and it's based on the film version. So it is what's his face, that Welshman,
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. It's him. He is the Pat Bateman, and American Psycho is like one of my favorite books, like top three books. I think it's an astonishing work of literature. I think it's just incredible. I've read it more times
Yeah.
than I care to remember. But it is. It's the film was all right. It just didn't go into enough detail about it, as they so often do. They always, because you've only
Yeah.
got like an hour and a half to tell the story. But the graphic novel version is really good. It's a new spin. It's like it's seen from another person's eyes, someone who's observed
Oh,
Patrick
really?
Bateman. Yep. So it's
Okay.
not.
Oh,
It's a new version of it. It's really cool. There was. I don't know.
I'm gonna get on
Did
that
you see the film?
immediately.
Yeah, I'm
I've
sure all
seen the
four
film. Yeah, I've
episodes
seen
are
it.
out. When that came out, there was, because I knew the book really well by that point. There was like a marketing campaign of emails from Patrick Bateman, and it was the kind of next chapter of, because the book just stops. It just starts
Okay.
and then it just stops.
Yeah,
There's no catharsis to any of it, and I think that's what makes it such a clever work. Have you read it?
I have read it a long time ago, but yes, I did read it after I saw the film.
Uh huh. What did you think of it?
I found it fascinating, and I think I probably read it. I probably about 20 years ago, maybe. Would that be possible? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. About 20
and at
years
the
ago it came
time,
out.
I was sorry.
It was about 20 years ago the film came out. Maybe just over 20 years.
So at the time, I was very seriously trying to kick my ass into writing something fictional,
Uh huh.
and I found myself reading lots of works of other people's, and then I always get in the position where I start emulating them to a little bit. I can't help it; it's ridiculous. And so I try. I don't. So I, at the time when I was discovering the fact that I can't read other people's work and then write my own style, I need like a 2 or 3 month break to get them out of my head. um,
Mm.
I did think that if I was to write a book, what book would am I jealous that I haven't written? And American Psycho is high up in that list, as well as Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah, so sorry, I was a long wishing response. I have read it, and it is very good. I think I remember all the
Yeah.
descriptions, detailed descriptions about business cards and was it tape players
Who's
or
wearing what?
dictaphones?
Yeah, who's wearing what suit? And I
Yeah,
always liked that, because I thought that is the essence of the story, that people are so obsessed with their own image that they can't see. They can't see the wood from the trees. They can't. I mean, he barely hides who he is. He's just like, everything's just so casual for the guy. And
yeah.
yet nobody can see it. Nobody else can see it. And I always thought that was so clever. I mean, that is what the book is all about. The violence is just like next level. It's really shocking.
Yeah.
The levels that he goes to, the depravity of it all. But I think what is really great about it is is his obsession to detail. And I do remember the first time I was like, how does he know what everybody else is wearing? How does he know
Yeah.
who what designer it is? And it just that I think that's what put the hook in me with the story. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so brilliantly realised. And I thought it kind of is an unfilmable book, because they didn't really get the essence of it. There's like this brief chapter where we talk a brief part in the film where he's doing the peeling the mask off. Like there is an idea of who I am, but I don't really exist. I'm just this, you know, I'm just a machine. But there's a line in it that always stuck in my head about how he just casually mentions about how proud he is that he has the nerve to do what he has to do.
Yeah.
Like, and it can't, just comes out of nowhere. I'm very proud of myself by having the nerve to do what I'm supposed to do. Like that's really
That's
something.
yeah. Well, I take from that if that's what he thinks he must do, then he may be a bit disturbed. But the fact that he takes he does still do it if it's challenging. That's a core salutable approach to life. So
Yeah,
is that
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
is that what you mean?
yeah. Well, it's he knows that what he's doing is wrong, but he does it
Oh, he
anyway.
does. It does it. I didn't take that from that statement. I thought he needs. So he knows he has to do it, despite the fact he knows it's wrong, and he's proud of himself for still sticking by it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And you think that's he's not talking about his obsession with suits or the fact that he works in Wall Street. He's talking about the fact that he is, an utterly amoral, vicious murderer. He's not just
yeah,
out
yeah,
there, shooting homeless people because he doesn't like the idea of them. He's a vicious, vicious individual who
yeah.
is proud of the fact that he does what he's supposed to do.
Okay,
It's
I'm gonna have to read the book again. So I'm gonna get the graphic novel. I'll read the graphic novel first, and then I've got the book over there somewhere, I think. So I'll have a read
It's a
of that.
new spin on it all as well. As I say, this
Yeah.
is very much set in the world of the film, but read it, you'll enjoy it.
All right, I'll get
It's a
on it.
good read.
All
It
right.
is.
Well, say
As I say,
thank
it's
you to
got
your comic shop dude next time you see him from me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll be back. I'll be home in just over a week, and
Oh,
I'm sure
cool.
I'll have a nice pile of comics to pick up
Oh,
on. So I'm going to.
oh,
Oh,
well,
it'll be good.
Joe, I love it. It's so lovely.
A1
Right.
Comics
Okay.
in Glasgow.
Say again.
Before we go, big shout out to A1 Comics in Glasgow, where I've been
Yes,
buying my comics there for like 30 years. They're absolutely righteous dudes.
that's wicked.
So
I would love to come
big
up.
up.
I'll have to come up one time and go shopping there.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be
you like
wicked.
it, you'll enjoy it.
I haven't been
It's
in a
cool.
comic shop for
So,
years. Go on.
right,
Yeah.
so where were we? Yeah, so my number one
Yes.
is, as I say, The Watchmen is the greatest graphic novel ever because it's the most profound thing anybody has ever done in that medium. But I think the best adaptation ever um, of comic to film is Batman, the Tim Burton one, the original one, not the
Mate.
original one, the 80s one.
Yeah.
It is just brilliant. It's so good.
Why is it so
It
good?
is. Well, it's got. I mean, it's Tim Burton at the peak of his powers.
Boom.
It's got Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Boom.
Every so often, I will dust off the line about somebody who is, of a questionable character. But I will say, the thing about this guy is, a repugnant individual, but he does have a tremendous singing voice, which is the line that he says about Jack Palance. Jack Palance as well,
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
Yep, he's
Oh
in there as
yeah.
well. He's brilliant. That's right,
Yeah.
Boss Grissom. Yep,
Fuck, I forgot.
and Jack Nicholson just overtakes from. And the thing that got me into it originally, it's got a soundtrack by Prince as well. I bought. I was given a gift of the vinyl copy. I got it on tape actually, and I said, Do you mind if I go and swap that for the vinyl edition?" I've still got it, and I dug it out a wee while ago and listened to it. I mean, like most people listen to everything on iTunes and all that
Yeah.
caper, but I do have an extensive collection of Prince records, and every so often I dig them out, and just again that physicality, records,
Yeah.
books, things that exist. Yeah, and it's a brilliant soundtrack. It's Prince at the absolute peak of his powers when he was like knocking out an album in a month on his own. So the
Jesus.
story goes that Tim Burton asked him to do if he could use one of his songs in the film, and he said, "I'll do you better than that. Hold my beer." And he came back like 6 weeks. Came back 6 weeks later with an entire album of
Fuck it
stuff.
out.
Anyway, there you go. Yep.
And
It's a really great album. You should check it out. And it's got Party Man's a great song that he wrote for Jack Nicholson.
really,
So
really.
yeah, it's up there. Yeah, yeah, it's really up there. It's a brilliant soundtrack. And what's at the heart of it as well is it stands alone as a film. It completely doesn't rely on anything else. Doesn't even rely on the canon of the story
Yeah.
of Batman and Bruce Wayne. But what I really like about him, what the film is, as I say, amongst everything, Jack Nicholson is the best Joker ever. He is
Yeah.
just so good at it, and all good graphic novels and all good films like that are judged on the bad guy, and he's the best bad guy that ever was. I think Heath Ledger was all right; it was good, but Jack Nicholson is the joke. Jack Nicholson's the Joker from The Killing Joke.
Yeah,
He is
exactly.
this crazy guy who is simultaneously, charming and funny, but also a complete loon,
Yeah.
and
Deranged.
dances between the three effortlessly.
Yeah.
He does what he's supposed to do. He is, it's his destiny to be the Joker,
Yeah.
and he's brilliant in it. He's just brilliant in it, and he's also, for me, the Batman films are how good is Bruce Wayne,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
a great Bruce Wayne. Michael Keaton. He's not the guy you
Yeah.
think of, because obviously those um, Christopher Nolan films, which I'm not even going to get into because it's just right wing reactionary pish.
Yeah.
Um, but as a Bruce Wayne, because he doesn't look like a billionaire, playboy type. You wouldn't imagine that that's what he does at nights, and yet that's what he does at night. And
Yeah.
he's a really great Bruce Wayne.
It, I absolutely agree, and I just think Michael Keaton, in his own right. I mean, I've never met the man, but there's just an air, an aura of quirkiness about
Hmm.
him, and I think that Tim Burton must. I presume he chose Michael Keaton. Who knows? But he must have
Hmm.
seen something in Michael Keaton to choose him as Bruce in the Batman, and because he's not. I've got an issue with characters being big if they need to be big. Or, if the source material says he's a
Uh-huh.
hulking man, he needs to be. But almost Michael Keaton isn't a hulking man, but it's an example of that film where it doesn't bother me at all, and I'm not entirely sure why. But it's yeah,
Because he's not the guy that you would ever think of to
yeah,
be Batman.
yeah.
And obviously there was George Clooney did one as well. Was it the Joel Schumacher one?
Oh God, yeah,
It was just as gay as a May morning. Um, but it's all right. And who else did one? Was it Val Kilmer?
yeah.
Did he do
I
one
think
as
Val
well?
Kilmer, and then they started bringing Robin as well, didn't they? No,
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about Robin. How do you feel about Robin?
I don't really worry about him. It doesn't really. It doesn't. He's all right. I think Death in the Family is
Yeah.
again one of the greats, and that's up against a lot of really great Batman stories, like you say, The Killing Joke, The Dark Knight Returns.
Well, that's about the only
So
Robin I can handle. I can just about handle Death in the Family because you need Robin to make that book. But
yeah,
the Dark Knight Return. But I'm happy he gets crowbar. But the Dark Knight Returns. I like the twist on Robin, and I think that's pretty cool to have quite a young character against a very ancient Bruce Wayne. I think that
yeah.
juxtaposition of ages is quite a big difference there. I think that just about works. But otherwise, if I pick up a Batman book and it's got Robin in, I normally find myself putting it immediately back down. Yeah,
Maybe not.
yeah. Well, yeah. So the thing, I'm going to show you something, Murray. Have I shown you this before?
Is it your penis?
No, I might have shown you that before. But ready? Here we go. Showing you it.
Oh no way!
Yeah, man. So
No
when I
way!
worked with
Is that
Chris,
your
sorry.
was Is that your only ink? Have you got
No,
more?
I got ink coming all over the place. All very subtle. You don't know I've got it unless I get my kit off. But when I worked in the tattoo studio with Chris, then I thought I want to get something on my lip, and I was going to get bollocks or something. But I thought it needs to be something that's relevant now. It was relevant in the past, and hopefully will be relevant in the future. And I stuck on
Uh-huh.
Batman because a Batman is sort of more of a sort of concept, my own personal concept to me. I don't really need any source material anymore. I've had it so, I've been swimming in it for so long that it's almost when like the Nolan Batmans, I was like, well, yeah, I get it, but not really. And then I quite like um, who's the new Batman? I forget who acts it. Robert
Oh,
Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
can't
like
remember.
that. I thought that was good.
That's quite good because that's getting closer to Batman. Was it 100 year back? I can't remember the name of the title. Anyway, doesn't matter. But the
Bring it
point
up on
being,
the screen when you
say,
remember. Bring it up on the screen.
oh
Bring a
yeah, okay,
graphic up
I
on the
may do
screen.
that. I'm really, you might have noticed, I'm really lazy at doing that shit. But it's he's got his little. Oh, it doesn't matter. But he's basically Batman to me is very personal. Okay. And so I'm easily offended. I mean, I'm more easily offended about Batman than anything else. And people have seen a new Batman film. Is there a new one out? Oh yeah, it's got Ben Affleck. It's got what? And then obviously what? I'm never going to. I mean, I've seen bits of it, and good luck to everyone. I mean, but for me, I don't need the film. But part of that formative growth of the personal concept of Batman was absolutely driven by Tim Burton's Batman. So absolutely agree with
Mm.
you. It's a masterful work.
There was a story I heard about. Gosh, it must have been about 25 years ago, about how they were wanting to make The Dark Knight Returns, and they were going to have Clint Eastwood, who would have been in his
Ooh,
late 60s.
ooh,
Yeah,
ooh.
yep, 70s, maybe even his 70s, because but Clint Eastwood was born on the same day as my dad, so I always had a soft spot for him.
Fair
And
enough.
many years ago, I got a copy. I got his signature, which I gave to my dad
I will,
as a Christmas gift,
oh, that's
as
wicked.
a birthday gift,
That's
which
wicked.
he was really taken up with. But he was going to be Bruce Wayne in his 70s, and they were going to get Toshiro Mifune, the Japanese actor,
Yeah,
the guy who he's like the guy that's in all the Kurosawa films,
yeah,
Yojimbo and Seven Samurai,
yeah.
and Hell in the Pacific, the John Borman film. They were going to get him as the villain, and I thought, oh, that must have been so
That would be so.
good.
I'm imagining Clint
That,
Eastwood out of Gran Torino.
yeah,
When he's a like
yeah,
grumpy old fucking Korean war, whatever,
yep,
Vietnam. But yeah, oh man, that would have been pretty good.
that
I
would
would
have
have
been
given that a go
fantastic.
because it's almost Dark Knight Returns is almost, it is Batman, but it's not Batman. It's kind of like Batman plus 30 years. It kind of breaks Batman out of that sort of eternal narrative loop that he never really
Yeah,
ages.
yeah,
And
yeah, and that's something that no one ever really does. The idea of an
mm,
old version of someone, nobody
yeah,
really does that. They just keep bringing back a new younger model,
yeah, yeah,
which is fine because we, new generations want to see the new stories. But
yeah.
I don't know if there are any instances of anybody ever bringing someone back as an old version.
No,
I
I'm
think it would
just
have been so
yeah.
good.
Yeah, that is cool. There's some really good examples of that, obviously in the comic world.
Mhm.
But I'm just thinking if you right, okay. So wicked. That's a great call. So before we wrap things up, because I got to get up at 3 in the morning, and it's ridiculous.
Good lord.
I know, mate. Have I made good life choices? I feel I have, but I've still got to get up at 3. I just wanted to. Have you got? I've got a list of. I'm just going to read them out, and then you can shout some out as well. The ones that the comics I really like that they've made films out of, and that I quite like, or films I really like that I've never read the comics. So I never read any Deadpool, really. I'm not really into Marvel too much, but I love the film.
Eh,
I love all 3 films. Have you seen the third one?
I've not seen it yet, but I hear it's good.
It, it
I think he's a great Deadpool because he is a really goofy. He has a goofy character
irreverent,
in the comics.
yeah,
Yeah, he's
and
irreverent. That's the one.
yeah, Hugh Jackson,
And he's one
Hugh
thing I
Jackman is really good in it. I watched it
Yeah,
twice in a
he's
week at the
great.
cinema.
I
Sorry.
like Hugh Jackman. I think he's a great actor. He doesn't take himself seriously, but he takes his work seriously, and I like
Yeah.
that about him.
Yeah, I think that's really well put,
He's
man. Akira, obviously, that's fucking brilliant.
yeah,
Um, uh,
yeah.
Invincible. Now, that's have you? Because I only read the comic the other day. It's about the son of a superhero. It's a Netflix animation now. Is it Netflix or maybe it's Prime? I don't know. But it's called Invincible, and I've read probably about 120 issues of it, and it's really good. I'd recommend giving it a little bit of a read. I think it's I think
Give
it's
it a
pretty
spin.
clever in many ways. It's not exactly breaking ground, but it's not far off breaking ground. And then I've never read the comics at all, but I love the film. I've probably seen it about 12 times. Is Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Yeah, yeah, they're all right. That's Edgar Wright, isn't it?
Yeah, oh
He's a
yeah, oh
he's a
God,
great comic.
yes.
He's a great comic director. He's a
Yeah,
really, really polished director. He doesn't
yeah.
get anywhere near enough credit. I remember watching
What?
Spaced
Oh, mate.
back in the day when I was in
Yeah,
college, and I was
yeah,
just like, that's what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be this guy, like he's really clever. I mean, he really knows what he's doing. He's a real technician, but he's
yeah,
also a fanboy.
yeah,
And when you're a fanboy, you're a fanboy, and you know
yeah.
your own, don't you?
Yeah, I just think him and Simon Pegg, they just must be laughing, mate. And Nick Foster, they just had so much fun. They must have had so much fun, and then look where they are. Good on them, man. That's really good.
Yeah.
And then films I want them to do that I don't think they've done. Oh no, hang on. So Happy, have you read that?
Oh yeah. I've
Yeah,
not. No.
because it's really good, and they've done I think two or three pretty good series of Happy. That's definitely worth looking at. That's pretty cool. So
What's
that's
that on?
Morrison, and then actually I watched this the other day actually just for shits and giggles because of Sean Connery was um the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So the graphic
Yeah.
novel's so good, and then the film is saved by Sean Connery, and it's not great. But
Yeah.
my favourite, probably, if you said Desert Island series of graphic novels, it would be hard. Sin City and a few others, but it probably have you. Oh, I'll talk about it another time. There's a series called Prophet. It's pretty mental, but this
Uh
one,
huh.
yeah. So
Oh.
it's back to 2000 AD. John Wagner, and there's one more. Did you ever read the comics? They kind of came out. Oh, fuck it. Was it early 90s? Called Toxic. It was brought out by some of the 2008 by Pat Mills, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a
So
massive Pat Mills fan. Charlie's War. Have you read that?
I think I read it because he recommended it to me. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember. So
Yeah.
maybe I haven't.
The-
But they brought a series of comics called Toxic. Hang on. There's a baseball chart. I might have my act together. No, I don't have my act together. No, I've locked them away in somewhere else. But there's this amazing, it's really, and so they have some stories in there called Martial Law, which is like an anti-hero. He was like a superhero hunter. And then
yeah.
there
Yeah.
was my
Yeah.
favorite though was this really violent and beautifully drawn series called Accident Man.
Nope.
No,
Sorry.
right, fine. So okay, oh, good. I'm so glad, Murray, that I can recommend some stuff to you because you're always recommending
Right.
me good
Give
stuff.
me the links, yeah.
And they've
I
actually
will
made
be.
two
I'll be.
films of it, and the actor
Uh
is
huh.
Scott Adkins. Do you know the
I know
sort
the
of?
name.
Yeah, he kind of like I think he was on Hollyoaks briefly, but then he was like Boyka in oh fuck it, I can't remember the name of it. Oh, was it Undisputed? Can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. These are all things I can tell you. But these are things that if you're watching the 14 members of the audience and Alan, hello Alan, is that
Alan. Hello, Alan.
these are all great. Oh god, and Slain from 2000 AD
Yes.
and
Pat
Grendel.
Mills again.
Yeah, Pat Mill and Grendel Prime is an amazing graphic novel. Um,
Uh huh.
better. Anyway, I've gone off on one there. You what have you got that you're looking forward to being made?
Well, the one that I am looking forward to, and it's a comic. It's a 2000 adventure that I have been reading since I was about at least 14. I remember buying it. I've still got the copy of one of the copies that I bought at the newsagents around the corner from my school. I still have it
Wicked.
downstairs in my archive, which
Yeah.
I dug out last year with the wife to get them all because I had to buy some more boxes. You know, every so often you have to buy more boxes,
Yeah.
and they were just all piled in. So I bought more boxes and I went through them all, bagged them, boards, all boxed up, you know, in chronological order. Uh, in that way
Proper.
that it must be. You can't just have them all randomly thrown in there. It just doesn't work. Um, including a number of my Starblazers as well. When I had to do a list of the ones that I'm missing.
Yeah.
My last act, as I joke with my pal Scott again, it's back to Scott. Um, my last act on Earth is going to be getting the final copy of my Starblazer to complete the collection, and then it's going to fall from my dead hand, you know, like that bit at the start of Citizen Kane, and
So,
it'll die and it'll fall. And folk will go, "What Starblazer? I don't know. Just put it in the fire. Nobody's interested."
yeah. Yes. So my
I don't
brother
know what it means.
Simon, my brother Simon's been collecting Dick Francis books for as long as I can
Uh huh.
remember, but he won't buy a new one. He's got to find it in the bottom of a charity box somewhere. Okay,
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he was over recently, and we went to a few charity shops and looking and for something else, and then I was like, how many Dick Francis have you got left? And he was like, there's only one left, and I'm like, I'm very excited for you, but are you a bit worried what happens after? You know, afterwards, is your life going to be slightly less, you know, rich?
The whole journey.
Yeah, you know, what comes next?
So
So be
how many
careful,
does he
buddy.
have? Yeah. How many does he own?
I don't know, but he's got them all apart from one. And he knew what it was. I said, "What's the name of it?" And I obviously can't remember because my memory's a twat. But
Bring
it's
it up on the screen, and I'm going to start looking for it
no, but that's
because
not
I
the
love
same.
sex.
He's got to find it. It's got to be the universe delivering it into his giblet. Or
Well,
you
that's all right. I'll find it, and then I'll take a video of me throwing
burning
it in
it.
the bin, burning it,
Yeah.
because burning books is all the rage again. And Hitler's in the charts again.
Oh,
You know, remember
Jesus.
that song?
Yeah,
You know that song by the
rings bells.
Exploited? The Exploited, the punk band from Edinburgh.
No,
The
sorry.
the double A side single, which I found in a record shop in Brixton, and the B side, or it's a double A side, is Hitler's in the charts again, and it's all about, you know, the rise of the right. And every time you see Farage on television, or the Germans are starting to vote for them again, I just
Yeah,
think of,
man. Yeah.
Hitler's in the charts again.
Could you even release that nowadays? Because there's so many things on like Disney and other things that are either removed completely or have a
Well,
sort
of
of
course you can.
apology at the
Well, it's
beginning,
not.
saying,
They're not talking about him as, you know, the world's most famous vegetarian. They're talking about him as a, you know, as a bad sort, you know. And he is the world's most famous vegetarian. I don't care what Paul McCartney says. He is.
"Oh man,
But yes, I die. We're wittering. We're wittering now.
this
We're
is
wittering.
yeah, yeah."
The one that I am looking forward to, which I found out just a wee while ago, is the Rogue Trooper film that's being made.
It,
Do you remember Rogue Trooper?
fucking yes, mate. I've got yes, mate. Absolutely, I love Rogue. So is it being made? I didn't know. I didn't know it's
Yes,
being made.
is apparently being made right now by Duncan Jones, the guy who did Moon.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yep. You may know Duncan Jones by his birth name of Zowie Bowie.
Oh yeah, oh, fuck yeah. You told. Oh
He's,
my god, that's
he's,
mental, isn't it?
he's the son of David Bowie, and rather than calling him, you know, Duncan or Alan or something like that, they decided to call him Zowie Bowie. And then I think when he hit 18, he went, "I'm going for something. I'm changing my name, father. What are you
Yes.
going? I'm changing my name to Duncan." Oh, can you imagine Bowie rolling his eyes? And
I,
David Bowie, of course, he was a great fan of graphic novels. He listed Viz as one of his favourite books of all time.
really?
Yes, there's a couple of really great pictures of David Bowie sitting on a train reading Viz with like enormous grin on his face,
Oh,
laughing
brilliant.
his head off. It's something ludicrous. And I always thought if I ever got to meet David Bowie, which sadly I never did, but I always thought it'd been really great to, like, he lived in that southern part of Manhattan. He lived down the southern part of the island. How
Okay.
great it would be if he was your neighbour, because you could meet him in the lift and say, "Have you seen the new Viz, Mr. Bowie?" And he'll go, "Oh, I've not had a chance to like have that, you know, fleeting conversation with
Yeah.
an absolute icon about toilet humor comedy,
Yeah.
toilet humor comics from Newcastle." And I thought that's how you get invited over for coffee at David
Yeah.
Bowie's
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Not by going, "Oh, you're awesome, Mr. Bowie. Can you sign a
Yeah.
record for me, please?" And you go,
That,
"What about Buster Gonad and his infeasibly large testicles? Would you,
yeah.
has it lost its way, Mr.
No,
Bowie?" That was going to be my in to getting invited over to
that's
David
good. You've
Bowie's
obviously
house.
sorted it out, and I think it would have worked.
I reckon it would have,
I think if
because you
I,
could
if
get a
my,
copy of it.
sorry.
Get a copy of it and then
Yeah.
go. I don't know if you've seen the new one there, but I don't know if you've seen the new issue of this, Mr. Bowie. Check it out.
No, my mate Jack, he reads them religiously, and he
Oh
quotes
yes,
them.
I have. I've been collecting them since I was a teenager. Again,
Seriously.
like, I think the earliest one I don't know where it is now, but the earliest one I've got is like issue 20 something.
Oh, bloody hell, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I
cool.
used to have a pile when I in my bachelor days before I got married, and I lived my own pretty much my entire adult life. But
Yeah.
I had a pile of just next to the toilet that were, like, practically up to the top of the cistern, and they're in a box somewhere in the cellar. They're in a
Oh,
box
mate.
somewhere in the cellar.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
I just think if I
Unfortunately,
was,
my wife is very understanding of this and how it's not just a pile of comics; it is in fact an art collection.
yeah.
So
Oh,
she gets
cool.
it,
I
which is
don't
very
think my
cool.
wife doesn't quite get it. I don't think she'd say it's an art collection. I think she might say it's a distraction, maybe, or something. But she knows how much I'm into them, and she knows that at Christmas
Yeah,
time when she goes, "What do you want for Christmas?" I know she knows it's going to be 2 or 3 graphic novels I've been saving up through the year to buy.
great idea
It's
for
it's
birthdays and Christmas.
it's lovely, and then
Yeah,
you have, like, we have Christmas dinner, we do presents, and then everyone starts falling asleep, and then I'm just waiting for everyone to go, and I go, right, that's it, and I can just, like, get the port out, get the cheese and crackers out, and just, read and just demolish 3 graphic novels in about an hour, something like that. Just
yeah,
absolutely bosh out.
that's the way to do
But
it.
I was
That's,
just thinking, if my
that's
if
such a
my
great.
dad called me Zowie, and I'd be all right with it, I wouldn't change it. But I'd definitely at some point go, Dad, what exactly were you on? Just out of curiosity, or was it just a
Well,
compound
cocaine,
effect over
son.
the years? Sorry?
Cocaine, son. Lots of cocaine.
I think it'd be cocaine, but I
Oh,
think there
okay.
might be, yeah, no, maybe cocaine. There might be a bit of psychoactive in there. I don't know. Or maybe just
Yeah, there
residual
was
long-term psychoactive.
yeah, he was definitely a man who embraced all the facets of life
Yeah.
with vigor, and
Yeah.
that's. But then we wouldn't have all that stuff without him being completely out of his tits on every
Yeah.
drug going.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have
Yeah.
done that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was quality.
but he's yes, Duncan Jones, who's a great filmmaker in his own right, is doing I don't know what if I don't know if it's like an augmented live version, but he's doing the Rogue Trooper film,
What do you mean by augmented live?
in the sense that I don't know if it's going to be like Sin City, where they're going to,
Oh,
not. It's I don't know if it's going to be like a motion capture type thing, or if it's going to be
okay.
a straight
Okay.
happening in front of the camera
Roger
type
that.
thing.
So,
And I'm
welcome
not
to
going to
New
look.
Earth, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to look into it too much because I want it to be new, like to just
Do,
when it
do,
comes out, I'm going to watch it.
yeah. So who's gonna do the voices of his synth chips, and
I don't know.
who's it gonna be? I know. I don't.
Who do you
Yeah.
want to do it? Leonard Rossiter can do one of them.
Which one's Leonard Rossiter?
I know he's been dead for some time.
Let's go.
But Leonard Rossiter, Sid James, and Morgan Freeman are doing the voices. Those are the three voices that I have in my head.
Uh,
Who have you got?
as long as they don't, they're gonna. As long as they don't. I'm sorry. This is my opinion, and I'll stand by it. As long as they don't make one of them female,
Well, is there
because
space
because
gender neutrality on New Earth.
nah, fuck that, man. Because what the source material says, and that they were all male like gene clones or whatever they were.
Mm-hmm.
There was a female rogue trooper at one point, wasn't there?
This Blue Jeans was
Yes.
she was a nurse, and the old rogue, apparently old Rogie was completely in a completely intact clone, because the two of them.
Thank you for that for that very clear visual explanation.
Just in case we're talking about the physical act of love.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. We should probably call it. That
Is
was.
that it?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm glad the first one didn't record because this was better, in my opinion.
This was better, actually.
It
Yeah,
was better.
this was a better one. To hell with the lost podcast. Let us never speak of it again.
So what I do have, just for reference sake, I did record my audio on my phone for the last podcast. So I do it, but only my end. We'll probably indistinctly be able to hear your end. It could probably be recovered. So, if we ever become hugely famous podcasters, posthumously, the kids might find the recording, and then it will be the unreleased, the lost ghost episode.
Episodes. Like those things about people finding copies of Dad's Army and Doctor Who and all that in archives. It'll be that.
Yeah, man, it's fucking bonk. I love going through old kit. Anyway, mate, Murray, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for hanging out and educating. And let's do it again soon, man.
Yeah, well, I'll be home in just over a week, so the next time it won't be this lovely wall. I'll be in the study at home.
Okay.
Which so it's going to be
wicked. And let's talk. And we can talk Bath as well. Let's meet up.
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll get together.
Yeah. All right, dude.
Cool, man.
Thank you very much. I'm going to press stop. Peace out, everyone.
Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Bye-bye.